Have you ever wondered why you feel empty the moment people stop giving you attention? Why your mood collapses when someone pulls away? It's because you were taught to depend on others for happiness, but never taught how to depend on yourself. Buddhism reveals a truth most people spend their whole lives avoiding. You are not incomplete. You are simply disconnected from your own inner world. The moment you learn how to sit with yourself, how to grow in silence, how to stop begging for love and start building inner peace, everything in your life begins to change. Because the real freedom is not found in people. It is found in the version of you that rises when no one is watching. 1. True happiness begins when you stop seeking yourself in others. One of the biggest reasons people experience so much emotional pain is because they keep searching for themselves in other people. They hope that someone else's approval will make them feel worthy. They wait for someone's attention to feel important. They rely on someone's validation to feel complete. But Buddhism teaches a simple and powerful truth. The moment you believe another human being is responsible for filling the emptiness inside you, you begin to suffer. You hand over your peace, your stability, and even your identity to someone who is temporary, changing, and imperfect, just like you. The truth is that no person on this earth can complete you, because you are not a half-finished human being looking for another half to make you whole. You were already born whole, complete, and full of potential. You simply forget this every time you attach your sense of worth to people who enter your life for a moment and disappear the next. When you depend on someone else to make you feel loved, your emotional balance becomes fragile. Your peace becomes something that can be taken away at any time. When they respond, you feel happy. When they pull away, you feel worthless. Your emotions become a roller coaster controlled by someone else's actions. The problem is never the person you are attached to. The real problem is the dependency that makes your happiness unstable. As long as you keep looking outward for emotional security, you will always feel lost. But the moment you turn inward, everything begins to change. Freedom begins when you understand that the love, comfort, and peace you seek already exist within you, waiting for your attention. You only need to reconnect with your own heart, your own mind, and your own inner strength. When you stop needing people to confirm your value, your entire relationship with the world transforms. You walk into relationships confidently instead of desperately. You connect out of genuine love, not fear of being alone. You no longer chase people, hoping they will give you what you should be giving yourself. Instead, you attract healthier relationships because your energy is grounded, calm, and independent. And when you no longer rely on others to complete you, you finally discover a deeper, more powerful happiness. A happiness that no one can take away. 2. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where you rebuild yourself. Most people fear silence because silence exposes the truth they've been avoiding. When the world becomes quiet, your thoughts get louder, your emotions rise to the surface, and everything you have been running from finally stands in front of you. This is why many people constantly keep themselves busy scrolling, talking, texting, distracting, because they do not want to face the parts of themselves they have ignored for years. But Buddhism teaches that silence is not something to escape, it is something to enter. Silence is not an empty space, it is a powerful teacher. In silence, you begin to see yourself clearly. You notice the thoughts that drain you, the beliefs that limit you, the habits that weaken your confidence. You become aware of your emotional wounds instead of hiding them behind noise and people. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects your inner world with honesty. It shows you what hurts, what heals, what you need to let go of, and what you must rebuild. This kind of awareness is uncomfortable at first, but it is the beginning of real transformation. Silence teaches you what truly matters to you. When you step away from the noise of other people's opinions, you begin to hear your own voice again. You stop living according to what society expects, what family pressures, or what relationships demand. Instead, you discover your own desires, your own goals, and your own truth. You realize that happiness cannot be found outside when you haven't created peace inside. In silence, you learn what you want to protect, what you need to change, and what you must stop carrying. The more time you spend in silence, the stronger you become. You stop depending on people to distract you from yourself. You stop looking for temporary comfort in conversations that drain you. You no longer run to others to escape your loneliness because you learn to sit with your own soul and feel safe there. Silence gives you a deeper connection to yourself, a connection that becomes the foundation of emotional strength. When you become comfortable with silence, your life becomes calmer. The noise of the world loses its power. The opinions of others no longer shake you. The need to constantly be around people fades. You start enjoying your own presence, something many people never learn in their lifetime. You begin to understand that silence is not loneliness. Silence is healing. Silence is clarity. Silence is the space where the old version of you dissolves and the stronger version of you begins to rise. And the most beautiful part is this: once you build yourself in silence, no one can destroy your peace. Because your peace comes from within, not from the noise around you. 3. Attachment is the root of suffering. Release the need to be completed. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the silent chain that keeps you tied to suffering, and most people don't even realize how tightly they are holding on to things that constantly hurt them. You become attached to people, to attention, to routines, to the idea of who you should be, and most painfully, to the belief that someone else must complete you. This attachment creates expectations, and expectations create disappointment. You keep hoping someone will love you in the exact way you imagine, understand you without words, stay forever even when life pulls them in another direction, or heal wounds they never caused. When reality doesn't match these hopes, your heart fractures. But the truth is, the pain didn't come from the person it came from, your attachment to the idea of them. Attachment convinces you that you are not enough on your own, that your happiness depends on someone showing up, someone staying, someone choosing you every day. This mindset makes you emotionally dependent, and emotional dependency makes you weak. When people pull away, your peace collapses. When they change, your confidence breaks. Your entire sense of self becomes shaped by the presence or absence of someone else. It becomes impossible to feel stable because you have tied your inner peace to something outside of your control. But Buddhism teaches that nothing outside you can offer permanent stability. People change, circumstances shift, life moves. Only the mind that stands strong within itself can stay peaceful. Letting go of attachment does not mean you stop caring about people. It does not mean you disconnect from the world or avoid relationships. What it truly means is that you stop clinging to others out of fear, insecurity, or emptiness. You stop believing that your worth is tied to whether someone stays or leaves. You learn to love without losing yourself. You learn to care without clinging. You learn to give without expecting equal returns. When you adopt this mindset, your relationships become healthier because they are no longer built on emotional hunger. They are built on genuine connection, freedom, and respect. Releasing attachment also allows you to see people as they truly are, not as your mind imagines them to be. When you are attached, you project your needs onto others, trying to turn them into the source of your happiness. This pressure harms both you and them. But when you let go, you begin to appreciate people for who they are, not for what they provide. You become less controlling, less anxious, and less fearful. You begin to understand that love is not possession. Love is presence. Connection is not ownership. Connection is openness. The moment you release the belief that someone else must complete you, a powerful shift happens inside you. You become lighter. Your stress decreases. Your emotional reactions soften. Instead of clinging on to people, you let relationships flow naturally. Those who truly align with your soul stay. Those who don't gently fade away. And because you are not attached, neither outcome breaks you. This is true freedom, a freedom that protects your peace and strengthens your heart. When you detach, you become like a mountain, steady, grounded, unshakable. Life might test you, people may come and go, situations will constantly change, but your inner world remains stable. You no longer fear loss because you understand that everything you truly need already exists within you. And the moment you stop needing someone to complete you, you step into a new level of emotional strength, a strength that makes you truly unbreakable. 4. Solitude makes you emotionally strong because you stop running from yourself. Most people are terrified of being alone, not because solitude is painful, but because solitude removes all the distractions that keep them from facing their true selves. The moment the noise stops, the moment the crowd disappears, the moment you are left with your own thoughts, everything you've been avoiding rises to the surface. Your fears, your insecurities, your emotional wounds, your unhealed pain, all of it becomes visible. This is why people cling to others, even when those people are toxic or draining. They are not afraid of loneliness. They are afraid of meeting their own mind without any escape. But Buddhism teaches that solitude is not a punishment. It is the greatest training ground for emotional strength. When you finally sit alone, without running, without distracting yourself, without reaching for someone to fill the silence, you begin the most important journey of your life, the journey toward understanding yourself. Solitude gives you space to breathe, to think clearly, to process your emotions, to discover what you truly want, and to confront the parts of yourself that you have buried under constant activity. Instead of running away from the inner noise, solitude teaches you how to listen to it, understand it, and eventually quiet it. When you spend time alone, you learn how to comfort yourself when you're sad, how to calm your mind when it's anxious, and how to lift yourself when you feel low. You begin to build emotional muscles that most people never develop because they rely on others for support, reassurance, or distraction. You learn how to regulate your thoughts instead of letting them spiral. You learn how to sit with discomfort without panicking. You learn how to soothe your heart without begging for someone else's presence. This ability, the ability to hold yourself together when no one is around, is the foundation of emotional independence. Over time, the loneliness you once feared becomes a peaceful space. The silence that once felt heavy becomes healing. You start enjoying your own company. You start feeling safe within your own mind. You begin to trust yourself, rely on yourself, and understand yourself in ways you never could when you were constantly surrounded by people. This is when emotional strength takes root. You stop expecting others to fix your feelings. You stop relying on relationships to escape your inner world. You no longer depend on external sources of comfort. You become self-sustaining, and the more you grow in solitude, the less fragile your heart becomes. You stop breaking when someone pulls away. You stop collapsing when someone disappoints you. You stop feeling empty when someone leaves. People no longer hold the power to shake your peace because your peace is no longer built on them. You have built a strong foundation within yourself, a foundation created in silence, shaped by reflection, and strengthened by self-awareness. Solitude teaches you one of the most empowering lessons of life. You are not afraid of being alone. You are afraid of not knowing how to take care of yourself emotionally. But once you learn that skill, once you master that inner strength, once you learn to sit quietly with your thoughts and still feel whole, you become someone who cannot be broken by distance, rejection, or abandonment. You no longer chase people to avoid loneliness. Instead, you choose people because they genuinely add value to your life, not because you need them to survive. This is what true emotional power looks like, the ability to stand alone without feeling incomplete, the ability to be with yourself without fear, the ability to walk your path with confidence even when no one is beside you. Solitude does not weaken you, solitude builds you. Solitude does not isolate you. Solitude prepares you for a life where you are never controlled by the presence or absence of others. And that is when you become truly unshakable. 5. Build your inner home so you never beg to belong anywhere. One of the deepest forms of suffering in life comes from feeling like you don't belong anywhere. People move from relationship to relationship, friend to friend, place to place, constantly searching for a sense of home, a place where they feel understood, accepted, safe, and valued. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. Your real home is not a physical place, and it is not found in another person. Your true home is inside you, in your peace, your self-respect, your inner stillness, and your connection to your own soul. If you do not build this inner home, you will spend your entire life chasing belonging in places where you will never truly find it. Many people cling to others because they don't feel at home within themselves. They attach themselves to relationships, hoping that someone will heal the emptiness they feel inside. They try to impress people, please people, or change themselves to fit into groups where they never truly belonged. They stay in unhealthy relationships because the thought of being alone scares them more than being mistreated. They tolerate disrespect because they fear losing their only source of emotional safety. But this is not belonging, this is emotional dependence. It is the desperate search for a home outside yourself because you never built one within. Building your inner home means creating a space inside your own heart where you feel grounded no matter who comes or goes. It means knowing your worth so deeply that you never beg anyone to see it. It means having your own values, your own clarity, your own boundaries, and your own emotional strength. It means feeling safe inside your own presence, even when you are alone. This is not something that happens overnight. It is a slow, steady process of understanding yourself, trusting yourself, and respecting yourself enough to protect your peace. Your inner home begins with self-awareness. When you spend time alone, you start understanding who you are without the noise of other people's opinions. You learn what makes you happy, what drains you, what triggers you, and what inspires you. You begin discovering your natural strengths, your hidden fears, and the emotional patterns that have been shaping your life. This awareness becomes the first brick of your inner foundation. Without it, you keep searching for someone else to define you. Next comes emotional discipline. Building your inner home means learning how to regulate your emotions without depending on someone else to calm you, reassure you, or validate you. It means learning how to comfort yourself when you feel sad, how to motivate yourself when you feel stuck, and how to guide yourself when you feel lost. When you develop this emotional strength, you no longer fear losing people, because your stability does not depend on their presence. You know how to take care of your own heart. Then comes self-respect. When you build your inner home, you stop tolerating what disturbs your peace. You stop accepting behavior that disrespects your worth. You stop forcing yourself into spaces where you are not valued. You realize that it is better to stand alone with dignity than to stay connected with people who drain your spirit. You no longer beg for acceptance because you have already accepted yourself. You no longer crave approval because you approve of your own existence. Your inner home also includes your boundaries, the invisible edges that protect your energy. When you have a strong inner home, you know when to walk away. You know when something is not good for your soul. You understand that not every connection deserves access to your spirit. You learn to guard your peace the way others guard their treasures. And that inner protection makes your life calmer, steadier, and far more meaningful. But the most beautiful part of building your inner home is this. Once you create it, you stop chasing places, relationships, and situations where you think you might finally feel complete. You already feel complete within yourself. You enter relationships from a place of emotional fullness, not emotional hunger. You connect with people out of genuine love, not fear of loneliness. You allow relationships to flow naturally. Those meant to stay will stay, and those meant to leave will leave, and neither outcome breaks you, because you always have a safe place within yourself. When you build your inner home, you finally stop begging to belong. You stop trying to fit where you don't fit. You stop molding yourself to please others. You stop fearing abandonment because you no longer abandon yourself. You walk through life with a calm confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are your own anchor. You are your own stability. You are your own comfort. You are your own home. And this is what makes you truly powerful. The moment you no longer depend on the world to make you feel complete, the world loses its power to break you. 6. Detach from expectations and life will stop disappointing you. One of the biggest hidden sources of human suffering is the expectations we secretly place on other people. Most people don't even realize how strongly they cling to unspoken hopes, imagined scenarios, and ideal versions of others. They expect people to respond in a certain way, care with the same intensity, show up with the same effort, and love with the same purity. But Buddhism teaches that expectations are nothing more than attachments disguised as hope, and because life does not obey your imagination, every expectation you hold becomes an invitation for disappointment. Expectations make you believe that people should think like you, act like you, or give the same energy you give. You start assuming how someone should treat you. You assume how they should react. You assume how they should behave. But the truth is, people are not mirrors of your mind. They come from different experiences, different wounds, different beliefs, and different levels of emotional maturity. What feels obvious to you may not even cross someone else's mind. What feels respectful to you may not be natural to someone else. When you glue your happiness to the way others behave, you hand over your peace to forces you cannot control. The deeper problem with expectations is that they create invisible emotional contracts that the other person never agreed to. You build stories in your head, stories of what you think someone should do, how they should respond, or how they should prioritize you. But the person you expect these things from often has no idea what's happening within your mind. They are living their life while you are silently waiting for them to meet standards they don't even know exist. When they don't meet those expectations, you feel hurt, ignored, or unloved, not because they betrayed you, but because your expectations betrayed you. Buddhism teaches that expectations are mental traps. They make you cling to a rigid version of how things should be, instead of accepting how things are. When reality does not match your imagination, the mind suffers. But when you let go of the illusion that others must behave the way you want, you free yourself from the emotional storms that expectations create. You begin to see people clearly, without filters of desire or disappointment. You start understanding them as they truly are, not as you want them to be. Detachment from expectations does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold or emotionless. It means you stop tying your emotional stability to how someone else behaves. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop believing that happiness comes from people doing exactly what you expect. You give people the freedom to be themselves, and you give yourself the freedom to stay peaceful regardless of what they choose. One of the most powerful shifts happens when you learn to replace expectations with observations. Instead of expecting someone to make time for you, you observe whether they actually do. Instead of expecting someone to respect your boundaries, you observe how they respond when you express them. Instead of expecting loyalty, effort, or consistency, you observe whether those qualities naturally show up. This way, you are no longer blinded by what you want to see. You see reality. And when you see reality, you make better decisions. You invest your energy wisely. You protect your peace with clarity instead of disappointment. The moment you begin to detach from expectations, your relationships become lighter and healthier. You stop placing emotional weight on people who cannot carry it. You stop feeling hurt when someone acts according to their nature. You stop overthinking because you are no longer trying to force outcomes. You become more present, more patient, and more accepting. You begin to value effort that is freely given, not demanded. You appreciate love that flows naturally, not forced. And you start valuing what a person shows rather than what you imagine. Most importantly, when you let go of expectations, your happiness returns to its rightful owner, you. No one has the power to disappoint you because you no longer cling to imagined outcomes. No one has the power to shake you because you no longer build your peace on unstable foundations. You understand that your emotional world is your responsibility, not someone else's obligation, and this is where true freedom begins. You start creating a life where you enjoy connections without clinging, appreciate people without controlling them, and care deeply without losing yourself. You become calmer, wiser, and more grounded. You stop reacting to every little thing because you know that your peace is not dependent on external conditions. You finally understand that letting go of expectations does not weaken relationships, it strengthens them, because everything that remains is genuine. When you detach from expectations, life stops disappointing you. People stop hurting you unintentionally. Your heart becomes steady. Your mind becomes peaceful, And for the first time, you begin to experience relationships the way they were meant to be: honest, free, and rooted in reality, not fantasy. 7. When you learn to be happy alone, you become unbreakable. There comes a moment in every person's life when they finally see the truth. The world does not make anyone whole. People do not complete you. Relationships do not fix you. Attention does not heal you. The only place where lasting peace, strength, and happiness can be built is within yourself. And Buddhism teaches that the ability to be happy alone is not a weakness, not a punishment, not a failure, but the highest form of inner freedom a human being can achieve. Because when you learn to stand alone without feeling empty, without feeling afraid, and without feeling abandoned, you rise into a new level of emotional maturity where nothing and no one can break you the way they once did. Most people struggle to be alone because they misunderstand loneliness. They confuse loneliness with being by themselves. But these two states are not the same. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness. It comes from depending on others to fill emotional gaps you never learned to fill yourself. Solitude, however, is a state of fullness. It is the ability to enjoy your own company, to feel safe inside your own presence, to find peace in the quiet moments of life. Loneliness drains you. Solitude strengthens you. When you understand this difference, your entire relationship with yourself changes. You become unbreakable the moment you stop allowing the presence or absence of people to control your emotional world. Think about how many times you felt anxious when someone didn't reply quickly, how many times you felt worthless when someone pulled away, how many times you felt insecure when someone stopped giving you attention. These reactions are not caused by love, they are caused by dependence. You handed your emotional stability to someone else and became fragile because of it. But the day you learn to sit alone without feeling panicked, without feeling unloved, and without feeling unwanted, is the day you reclaim the power you've been giving away your whole life. When you learn to be happy alone, you stop chasing people. You no longer run after those who don't value you. You no longer beg for love, for attention, for time, or for validation. You stop waiting for someone to choose you because you have already chosen yourself. This is the emotional transformation that makes you powerful. Before, you needed someone to make you feel worthy. Now, you feel worthy on your own. Before, you relied on conversations, relationships, and companionship to distract you from your fears. Now, you can sit with your fears, understand them, hold space for them, and release them without needing anyone to save you from them. Before, you felt lost without someone by your side. Now, you feel grounded even when you walk alone. This kind of independence does not make you cold. It makes you real. It makes your relationships healthier because you no longer attach desperation to them. You no longer expect someone else to fix your loneliness or rebuild your identity. You enter relationships from a place of wholeness, not hunger. You can love deeply, but without losing yourself. You can care fully, but without clinging. You can connect openly, but without becoming dependent. This is what makes your presence magnetic. People are drawn to those who carry peace within themselves. They feel calm around you because you are calm within yourself. One of the most powerful things that happens when you learn to be happy alone is that your standards rise naturally. You stop accepting half-love, inconsistent behavior, or disrespect simply to avoid being alone. You start protecting your boundaries. You start choosing quality over company. You start valuing your time and energy. Instead of forcing relationships, you let them flow. Instead of tolerating people who drain you, you walk away with confidence. Instead of giving unlimited chances to those who keep hurting you, you close the door and move forward. This inner strength comes from solitude, from creating a version of yourself that does not crumble when people fail to show up for you. And something even deeper happens. Your intuition becomes clearer. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, you cannot hear the truth inside you. But when you spend time alone, your mind quiets down. You start understanding what you truly want in life. You realize what matters to you, what aligns with you, what inspires you, and what no longer serves you. You begin to understand your life's direction with a clarity you never had before. Decisions become easier. Stress decreases. Overthinking fades. Because solitude shows you the answers you were too distracted to see. Being happy alone also teaches you emotional resilience. Life is full of changes. People leave, situations shift, relationships evolve, and nothing stays the same. If your happiness depends on someone else, every change becomes a threat. But if your happiness is rooted within you, change becomes easier to handle. You don't fear loss because you no longer lose yourself when someone walks away. You don't fear rejection because you know it does not define your worth. You don't fear distance because your peace travels with you. You don't fear being alone because solitude has become your strength instead of your weakness. This is why people who are comfortable alone are the strongest. Nothing and no one has control over their emotional foundation. Buddhism teaches that true happiness is not found in attachment, but in inner freedom. When you are no longer tied to the idea that you must have someone beside you to feel whole, you begin to experience life with a sense of liberation that many people never attain. You wake up without feeling emotionally dependent. You move through the world with confidence, knowing that your peace comes from your own mind. You begin to enjoy small moments, drinking tea alone, walking by yourself, sitting in silence, reading, reflecting, breathing. You find joy in the simplest experiences because you are no longer distracted by emotional fear. The world becomes more beautiful when you are at peace with being alone. You notice details you ignored before. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You understand yourself deeply, and this understanding becomes the foundation of your strength. And here is the ultimate truth. When you learn to be happy alone, you become the kind of person who can love purely because your love is no longer driven by need. You give love from fullness, not emptiness. You offer companionship from strength, not fear. You allow relationships to grow naturally without pressure or expectation. People feel this energy, and they respect it. They value it. They admire it. Because emotional independence is rare, and when someone has it, their presence becomes powerful. You become unbreakable, not because you avoid relationships, but because you are no longer dependent on them for your happiness. You become unbreakable not because you shut people out, but because you have built a safe home within yourself that no one can destroy. You become unbreakable not because you don't feel emotions, but because you know how to hold those emotions with wisdom and strength. When you learn to be happy alone, you finally understand what true freedom feels like. A freedom that gives you peace, clarity, confidence, and the unshakable ability to move through life with dignity, no matter who stays, who leaves, or who disappoints you. You become the author of your emotional world, the guardian of your peace, and the creator of your own happiness. This is the most powerful transformation a human being can experience. This is what makes you truly unbreakable. 8. Your peace begins when you stop explaining yourself to everyone. One of the most exhausting habits people develop is the constant need to explain themselves, their choices, their silence, their boundaries, their dreams, their changes, and even their pain. Most people don't realize it, but this habit drains their energy more than any physical work ever could. You spend so much of your life trying to convince others that your decisions make sense, that your intentions are good, that your heart is clean, that your path is right. But Buddhism teaches a powerful truth. Peace begins the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Think about how many times you felt stressed because someone didn't understand your behavior. How many times you argued just to prove you were right. How many nights you couldn't sleep because you worried about what someone thought of you. How many times you rewrote messages, rehearsed your explanations, or justified your feelings just to make sure no one misinterpreted you. This constant over-explaining is not a sign of clarity. It is a sign of inner insecurity. It means you still believe your worth depends on someone else's approval. But here is the truth you need to understand deeply. People see the world not as it is, but as they are. Their judgments reflect their character, not your reality. Their misunderstandings come from their own wounds, their own fears, their own biases, and their own limitations. You can explain yourself 1,000 times to someone who is determined to see you through the lens of their own emotions, and they will still misunderstand you. When people have already decided who you are, no amount of explaining will change their minds. And that is why, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, the strongest version of you learns to let people think what they want. You become peaceful when you stop performing for the world. You stop trying to manage everyone's impression of you. You stop trying to convince people who don't even listen. You stop wasting your breath on conversations that go nowhere. You stop lowering your standards just to be understood by those who don't want to understand. This is the freedom Buddhist teachings emphasize, the freedom of releasing the need to be constantly seen, validated, and approved by others. When you stop explaining yourself, a powerful transformation begins. Your mind becomes quieter, your stress decreases, your emotional energy rises. You begin to understand that it is not your job to make the world understand your soul. Your job is to live according to your principles, your truth, and your path regardless of who agrees or disagrees. Your peace becomes more important than being liked. Your direction becomes more important than being applauded. Your purpose becomes more important than being accepted. People who truly care about you do not need endless explanations. They understand through your actions. They observe your consistency. They feel your sincerity. They know your heart. But people who constantly demand explanations from you are usually the ones who have already judged you before you even speak. No explanation will ever be enough for them, and the more you try, the more you drain yourself trying to win battles that were never yours to fight. Buddhism teaches that attachment causes suffering, and one of the attachments modern people struggle with is the attachment to being understood. You want everyone to see your heart clearly, to understand your intentions, to recognize your value, to acknowledge your goodness. But as long as you cling to this need, you will always be hurt by those who misunderstand you. When you let go of this attachment, you find peace even in silence. You become calm even when others misjudge you. You no longer feel the urge to argue, defend, or justify yourself. You simply act according to your truth and let your life speak louder than your words. When you stop explaining yourself, you gain an immense amount of emotional power. Your silence becomes your shield, your stillness becomes your statement, your presence becomes your answer. People begin to notice something different about you, a quiet confidence, a deeper strength, an unshakable sense of self. You no longer react to assumptions, you no longer bend to pressure, you no longer shrink to make others comfortable, you no longer waste your energy on people who do not value your honesty. You begin to understand that the person who will walk the longest journey with you is yourself. So the relationship you must protect the most is the one you have with your own conscience. If you know your intentions are pure, if you know your actions are aligned with your heart, then you do not owe anyone an explanation. People may talk, people may assume, people may judge, but none of that can disturb you, because your peace no longer depends on external opinions. Your peace comes from knowing who you are, without the world telling you who you should be. And something even more beautiful happens. Your circle becomes smaller but more meaningful. People who misunderstand you will naturally drift away because they can no longer feed on your explanations. People who value your presence will stay because they understand your silence. People who align with your energy will appreciate your independence. And those who love you genuinely will respect your boundaries because they know they are not walls, they are gates that protect your inner world. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to live a life that feels authentic. You stop chasing acceptance. You stop fearing judgment. You start trusting your intuition. You start respecting your emotions. You start honoring your boundaries. You start living in a way that aligns with your spirit. And this alignment creates a deep sense of inner harmony, a harmony that no external misunderstanding can break. By letting go of explanations, you step into a higher level of consciousness, where your peace matters more than proving yourself. Your silence matters more than defending yourself, and your self-respect matters more than pleasing others. You become someone who moves through life with grace, clarity, and strength, untouched by the storms of opinion, untouched by the noise of the world, untouched by the emotional immaturity of others. This is when you become truly powerful. This is when you become truly free. This is when you become truly you. 9. The moment you stop needing people, you finally meet your true self. There is a moment in every person's spiritual journey when something profound happens, a moment that feels like a quiet shift deep inside the soul. It's the moment you stop needing people to feel worthy, to feel loved, to feel secure, to feel whole. It's the moment your identity no longer depends on someone staying, someone choosing you, someone validating you, or someone understanding you. For many people, this moment arrives after heartbreak, after betrayal, after loneliness, after disappointment, but it always arrives. And when it does, your life changes entirely. Buddhism teaches that your true self cannot appear as long as you are attached to the world for your sense of completeness. Only in the absence of dependency does your real strength awaken. Most people have never met their true selves. They only know the version of themselves that reacts to the world, a version shaped by expectations, fears, desires, and attachments. They know the version of themselves who tries to please others, who tries to fit in, who adjusts their personality to feel accepted, who hides parts of themselves to avoid judgment. They know the version of themselves who fears being alone, who sacrifices their dreams for approval, who changes their boundaries out of fear of rejection. But this version is not the real you. It is a survival version, a reactive version, a conditioned version, and as long as you depend on others emotionally, this version controls your life. The moment you stop needing people, the masks you have been wearing for years begin to fall away. You no longer pretend to be someone you're not. You no longer dilute your truth to make people comfortable. You no longer shape your identity around who stays or who leaves. You begin discovering a deeper version of yourself, one that has been silent beneath the noise of the world, waiting for the day you finally stop outsourcing your self-worth. This is where your journey towards spiritual wholeness begins, because the person you are when no one is watching, when no one is validating you, when no one is giving you attention, that is the real you. That self is raw, honest, untouched, pure. That self is not shaped by opinions or expectations. That self is not afraid of silence. That self is not afraid of loneliness. That self is not afraid of standing alone. That self is free. Buddhism teaches that attachment to people is one of the greatest illusions of life. We cling to others because we believe they are the source of our happiness, our comfort, our identity. But in reality, these attachments create emotional chains that bind us to suffering, insecurity, and fear. When you stop needing people, you break these chains one by one. You free yourself from the emotional prisons built by your own mind. Something incredible happens when dependency dissolves. Your relationship with people transforms. Instead of clinging, you appreciate. Instead of expecting, you observe. Instead of forcing, you allow. Instead of begging for love, you give love freely. Instead of choosing people out of fear of loneliness, you choose people because your spirit genuinely aligns with theirs. You no longer hold on to relationships that drain you. You no longer tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. You no longer pursue people who treat your presence like an option. Your standards rise naturally because your sense of self-worth no longer comes from someone else's behavior. And as your standards rise, your emotional world becomes calmer. You no longer ride the highs and lows of other people's moods, attention, or inconsistency. You no longer panic when someone becomes distant. You no longer collapse emotionally when someone leaves. You understand that people come and go, but your inner peace must remain. You learn to let life flow instead of trying to control every outcome. You understand that your path is yours alone, and anyone who walks beside you should be someone who adds to your life, not someone you depend on to survive it. When you stop needing people, silence becomes your teacher. You begin to hear the voice that has been buried under years of noise, the voice of your intuition. You start understanding what your soul wants, what your heart needs, what your purpose feels like. You begin to trust yourself instead of doubting yourself. You begin to make decisions based on inner clarity, not external pressure. You begin to live in alignment with your true values, rather than performing for acceptance. This inner clarity brings emotional strength, the kind of strength that makes you unshakable. When you no longer depend on others, you stop fearing loss. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing judgment. You stop fearing being alone. These fears lose their grip on you because their power came from dependency. The moment the dependency disappears, the fear dissolves, and what replaces it is peace. A peace so deep, so steady, so grounding, that no external situation can pull you out of it. This is the highest form of confidence, not the loud, arrogant confidence the world celebrates, but the quiet, steady, humble confidence that comes from knowing yourself deeply. The confidence that comes from not needing to prove anything to anyone. The confidence that comes from being enough for yourself. The confidence that comes from living life on your own terms, without apologizing for it. You finally begin to experience love differently. You give without fear. You receive without insecurity. You walk away without breaking. You stay without losing yourself. You no longer confuse attachment with love. You no longer confuse possession with connection. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You understand that real love is not dependency. Real love is freedom, presence, respect, and harmony. And the most profound transformation happens when you realize this. When you stop needing people, the people meant for you will stay effortlessly. No chasing, no forcing, no proving, no convincing, just natural alignment. Your energy shifts, your presence becomes calmer, your heart becomes lighter. You attract better people because your spirit is no longer weighed down by insecurity. You attract deeper connections because your self-worth is no longer fragile. You attract people with emotional maturity because you no longer accept emotional chaos. You attract relationships that reflect the peace you have built inside. This lesson is the heart of your entire journey, because once you stop needing people, you stop suffering. Once you stop needing people, you stop doubting yourself. Once you stop needing people, you stop abandoning yourself. Once you stop needing people, you finally step into the power, stability, clarity, and peace that were always meant for you. And it is in this moment, the moment you no longer depend on anyone, that you finally meet your true self. A self that is whole. A self that is complete. A self that is powerful. A self that cannot be broken. 10. You become truly powerful when you no longer fear losing anyone. One of the deepest human fears is the fear of losing people, losing their love, their presence, their support, or their attention. This fear shapes how you speak, how you behave, how you love, and even how you see yourself. It makes you tolerate disrespect, accept neglect, cling to relationships that drain you, and silence your own needs just to keep someone close. But Buddhism teaches that true freedom begins when you no longer fear losing anyone, because the fear of loss is what keeps you imprisoned in emotional dependency, and the moment this fear dissolves, your entire life transforms. Most people do not realize how much this fear controls them. You stay in conversations where your soul feels drained because you don't want to upset someone. You stay in relationships where your heart feels unappreciated because you're scared of being alone. You try to keep people happy even when you are suffering inside because you think their approval is a form of safety. You hide your true self because you fear that if someone knew the real you, the raw, imperfect, vulnerable, evolving you, they might walk away. And slowly, piece by piece, you lose yourself in the process. But Buddhism reveals a profound truth. You cannot lose a person who is meant for your path, and you cannot keep a person whose path is not aligned with yours. People do not leave because you were not enough. People leave because their journey requires them to move in another direction. People do not stay because you begged them. People stay because their spirit recognizes yours. When you truly understand this, you stop forcing connections. You stop chasing people. You stop trying to control outcomes that were never yours to control in the first place. The fear of losing people comes from one root, the belief that your happiness depends on them. When your internal world feels empty, unstable, or fragile, you cling to others for emotional grounding. You hold on tightly, hoping they will fill the void, hoping they will complete you, hoping they will silence the loneliness inside. But Buddhism teaches that as long as your happiness depends on someone else's presence, you will always be afraid. Only when you build a life where your peace comes from within do you become fearless. Only when your emotional foundation comes from your own mind, your own heart, and your own inner strength do you stop worrying about who stays or who leaves. Imagine this. Someone's silence no longer disturbs your peace. Someone pulling away no longer destroys your confidence. Someone leaving your life no longer breaks your spirit. This does not happen because you stop caring. It happens because you stop depending. You care freely, you love openly, but your sense of identity remains rooted in yourself, not in anyone's behavior. This is emotional liberation. This is spiritual maturity. This is inner strength. And this is where your life becomes peaceful in a way it has never been before. When you no longer fear losing people, your relationships become healthier, calmer, and more genuine. You no longer force anything. You no longer try to control someone's feelings. You no longer lose yourself trying to keep someone else. Instead, you allow relationships to flow naturally. If they grow, you welcome them. If they fade, you let them go. You stop chasing closure because you give yourself closure. You stop begging for clarity because you understand that some answers appear only after you walk away. You stop fighting for people who show you repeatedly that they are not ready to meet you where your heart is. This fearlessness also strengthens your intuition. When you are no longer blinded by fear, you can finally see people clearly. You notice effort without excuses. You see intentions without illusions. You hear truth without emotional distortion. You understand that consistency is not something you should beg for. It is something that reveals who truly belongs in your life. Emotional maturity gives you the courage to walk away from those who disturb your peace, even if you love them, because your love for yourself becomes strong enough to protect you from emotional harm. Buddhism teaches that loss is not something to fear. Loss is a natural rhythm of life. Everything changes, everything transforms, everything evolves. People enter your life to teach you something, to awaken something, or to guide you through a specific phase of your journey. When their role is complete, life gently guides them out of your path. Holding on tightly only creates suffering. Letting go with grace creates peace. And when you are no longer afraid of losing people, you begin to trust life in a deeper way. You realize that what leaves is never meant for you, and what stays can never be taken away. The moment you stop fearing loss, your energy becomes magnetic. You no longer come from desperation. You no longer seek validation. You no longer cling to uncertainty. Your soul becomes calm, steady, grounded, and this energy attracts healthier, mature, spiritually aligned people. People feel safe around you because you are safe within yourself. They feel respected by your boundaries. They feel honored by your presence. And they feel valued because you choose them freely, not out of fear, not out of dependency. And something even more powerful happens. You discover a version of yourself you never knew existed, a version that is strong yet gentle, independent yet loving, caring yet self-respecting, open-hearted yet protected by wisdom. This version of you does not chase love, it attracts love. This version of you does not beg for loyalty, it recognizes loyalty. This version of you does not fear endings, it trusts new beginnings. This version of you does not break easily, it bends, adapts, and grows. When you no longer fear losing people, your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, your decisions become wiser. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop confusing attachment for connection. You stop accepting emotional crumbs when your soul deserves a feast. And slowly, you begin to understand the deepest truth of all. You were never meant to hold anyone tightly. You were meant to hold yourself tightly and let others walk beside you freely. Those who match your soul will stay. Those who do not will fall away. And neither outcome has the power to shake you anymore. This is what inner freedom feels like. This is what spiritual strength looks like. This is what it means to become truly unbreakable. 11. The world changes the moment you learn to validate yourself. One of the most painful struggles humans experience is the constant hunger for external validation, the need for someone to tell you that you matter, that you're worthy, that you're doing enough, that you're lovable, that your presence has meaning. This need shapes your relationships, your confidence, your decisions, and even your emotional stability. But Buddhism teaches that true peace arrives the moment you learn to validate yourself, because external validation is temporary, fragile, unpredictable, and as long as your worth depends on it, you will always be emotionally unstable. Most people don't even realize how deeply they chase validation. They constantly check their phones for replies. They seek approval in their friendships. They look for reassurance in relationships. They crave praise at work. They fear being misunderstood. They hide their real feelings just to avoid judgment. They adjust their personality depending on who they're talking to. They agree with things they don't believe. They stay silent when they should speak. They pretend to be okay just to avoid disappointing someone. All of this comes from one hidden wound, the belief that your worth comes from the outside world. But here is the truth. External validation is the most unstable foundation you can build your life upon. People change, opinions change, feelings change. Someone may praise you today and ignore you tomorrow. Someone may love you today and leave you next season. Someone may support you today and misunderstand you next week. If your identity depends on constantly being approved, your mind will never rest. You will live in a constant state of emotional survival, always performing, always worrying, always adjusting, always trying to be enough in the eyes of others. Buddhism teaches that validation from others is like a guest it visits, but it never stays. Self-validation, however, is like a home. It shelters you, protects you, strengthens you, and stays with you wherever you go. When you learn to validate yourself, you no longer wait for people to make you feel good enough. You no longer depend on someone's compliments to feel confident. You no longer base your mood on how someone responds to you. You no longer feel empty when others don't acknowledge you. You begin to generate your own emotional oxygen. When you validate yourself, you become emotionally self-sufficient. You can appreciate praise without becoming dependent on it. You can receive criticism without collapsing from it. You can handle misunderstanding without losing sleep. You can express your truth without needing everyone to agree. You can make decisions without waiting for someone to give you permission. You can walk away from situations that disrespect you without fearing judgment. Self-validation means you understand your own worth so deeply that no external opinion has the power to shake you. Imagine what your life becomes when this truth finally sinks in. You wake up in the morning and feel grounded even if no one messages you. You post something without obsessing over likes. You speak your opinion even if no one agrees. You set boundaries without guilt. You choose yourself without apology. You celebrate your small wins even if no one notices. You love yourself even if others don't understand your journey. This is not arrogance, this is self-respect. This is not ego, this is emotional maturity. This is not selfishness, this is spiritual alignment. When you validate yourself, you no longer fear being alone, because you know that the strongest support you have is already inside you. You no longer fear losing people because your peace does not depend on their approval. You no longer fear rejection because you refuse to reject yourself. You no longer fear being misunderstood because you understand yourself deeply. And something incredible begins to happen. Your relationship with yourself becomes your greatest source of strength. You begin to talk to yourself with kindness. You begin to treat yourself like someone you love. You begin to trust your decisions. You begin to believe in your capabilities. You begin to understand your emotions instead of doubting them. You begin to honor your inner voice instead of silencing it. This inner shift changes your entire life. Your external world becomes calmer because your internal world becomes stable. Your relationships become healthier because you are no longer seeking approval through them. You begin to attract people who respect you because you respect yourself first. You begin to create boundaries naturally because you know what you deserve. You begin to say no without guilt because your self-worth no longer depends on pleasing people. When you validate yourself, the world cannot manipulate you. Flattery cannot control you. Criticism cannot break you. Silence cannot scare you. Judgment cannot paralyze you. Rejection cannot shrink you. Loneliness cannot consume you, because your sense of worth becomes internal, not external. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes peaceful when it stops chasing things that are outside of its control. External validation is one of those things. The world will always have opinions. Some people will praise you, some will criticize you, some will misunderstand you, some will support you, some will judge you unfairly. But none of this defines you unless you allow it to. When you validate yourself, you step into a higher level of consciousness where you are rooted in self-awareness, not external noise. You become calm in situations where you once panicked. You become steady in moments where you once broke down. You become confident in places where you once felt insecure. You begin to operate from your inner truth, not from the world's expectations. This is the moment you finally meet the version of yourself who is not shaped by fear, not shaped by need, not shaped by insecurity, not shaped by people's opinions, but shaped by wisdom, strength, dignity, and inner clarity. And this is when you realize the deepest truth. The world does not change when people validate you. The world changes when you validate yourself. 12. You heal the moment. You stop trying to be who everyone wants you to be. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is the pressure to become the person others expect you to be. From childhood, you are shaped by opinions, rules, judgments, desires, and expectations placed upon you by family, society, friends, teachers, and even strangers. Over time, you start abandoning pieces of yourself just to be accepted. You learn to silence your voice to avoid conflict. You hide your emotions to appear strong. You change your personality to fit in. You suppress your dreams to please others. You force yourself to be good enough, acceptable enough, strong enough, normal enough, according to standards you never chose. And this constant performance becomes a silent burden, a heavy weight you carry for years without even realizing it. But Buddhism teaches that suffering begins when you lose yourself, and healing begins the moment you stop trying to be who everyone else wants you to be. Because the person you pretend to be will never feel peaceful, but the person you truly are has been waiting patiently beneath all your masks. Most people live their entire lives wearing masks they never take off. A mask for family, a mask for friends, a mask for relationships, a mask for work, a mask for society. Behind each mask is a different version of yourself, but underneath all of them is the real you, the unfiltered, unedited, unperformed version of yourself that you rarely show. This real self carries your true fears, your true desires, your true wounds, your true beliefs, your true dreams. And because you hide it for so long, it begins to suffocate. This is why so many people feel lost, even when surrounded by others. This is why they feel empty, even when their life looks successful. This is why they feel disconnected from themselves. They haven't lived as their true self in years. They have lived as a reflection of what others want from them. Buddhism teaches that the real cause of your sadness is not who you are. It is the pressure to be who you are not. And every moment you try to meet someone else's expectation, you drift further away from your authentic self. But there comes a time, a spiritual turning point, when pretending becomes too painful, when the mask becomes too heavy, when the real you starts pushing from the inside, demanding to be free. That moment is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. It is the beginning of your healing. Healing begins when you look at your life and ask, who am I without the expectations of others? Who am I when I stop performing? Who am I when I stop trying to please everyone? At first, it feels scary. Removing the mask feels like stepping into the unknown. You might fear rejection. You might fear judgment. You might fear losing people who only loved the version of you that wasn't real. But Buddhism teaches that anything built on illusion must fall apart so the truth can rise. What you lose will only be what was never meant for you. What stays will be aligned with the real you. When you stop trying to be who everyone wants you to be, your soul takes its first breath of relief. You begin learning how to express yourself with honesty rather than fear. You start feeling your emotions without shame. You begin making choices based on your own truth rather than someone else's approval. The world begins to feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of expectation. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You reconnect with yourself. You rediscover what you genuinely love, not what you were taught to love. You start to realize what truly matters to you, not what others say should matter. You recognize what brings you peace, not what others place on you. You reconnect with your natural personality, the one you set aside just to fit in. You begin treating yourself with kindness, patience, and compassion in the same way you wish others would treat you. As you let go of others' expectations, you also stop expecting yourself to be perfect. You allow yourself to grow. You allow yourself to make mistakes. You allow yourself to rest. You allow yourself to be human. This shift is deep. It turns self-hatred into self-understanding, shame into acceptance, and fear into awareness. When you stop shaping yourself to please others, your relationships begin to change. People who loved your mask may leave, but people who love your truth will come. People attached to your false self may drift away, but those who connect with your authentic self will remain. You no longer feel the need to prove who you are. You stop explaining your worth. You stop shrinking your personality. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop pretending to be fine when you are hurting, and for the first time in years, you feel real. Buddhism teaches that authenticity is the root of peace. When your inner world matches your outer world, when your actions align with your values, when your words reflect your intentions, and when your behavior mirrors your spirit, you live with integrity. Integrity brings peace. Peace brings clarity. Clarity brings freedom. Once you stop trying to be who everyone wants you to be, your life starts to feel like your own. You stop living on autopilot. You stop walking paths that were never meant for you. You stop forcing yourself into roles that suffocate your soul. You begin listening to your heart, your intuition, your inner wisdom. You start choosing relationships that respect your spirit. You begin chasing dreams that feel meaningful. You start trusting your inner compass. This shift makes you strong in a quiet, steady, unshakable way. A person who knows who they are cannot be manipulated. A person who accepts themselves cannot be broken by rejection. A person who follows their inner truth cannot be controlled by judgment. A person who lives authentically cannot be trapped by fear. And in this authenticity, you discover something remarkable. The world you once feared begins to respect you, not because you became stronger on the outside, but because you became aligned on the inside. People sense your confidence. They feel your calm. They notice your boundaries. They respect your truth. And those who don't slowly fall away. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom. Freedom does not come from becoming someone else, but from returning to yourself. When you stop trying to be who everyone wants you to be, you step into your real life, a life built on peace, honesty, clarity, and self-love. You become grounded, you become centered, you become whole, and you finally experience the deep, steady, quiet happiness that comes from simply being yourself. This is where true healing begins. This is where your real life begins. If one truth runs through every lesson of this journey, it is this: your life changes the moment you stop searching outside yourself for what has always lived within you. For years, you may have believed happiness comes from being loved, understood, accepted, belonging to someone, or being surrounded by people who never leave. But Buddhism teaches that real happiness begins when you stop depending on the world to complete you, because nothing outside you lasts forever. People change. Circumstances shift. Relationships evolve. Moments pass. And when your inner world depends on these external things, you will always feel unstable, insecure, and incomplete. But the moment you return to yourself, the moment you start building peace from within, your entire life begins to align in ways you never imagined. You learn that true happiness begins when you stop searching for yourself in others, because no one completes you the way you complete yourself. You learn that silence is not empty, but a sacred space where real healing begins. You learn that attachment is the root of suffering, and letting go brings freedom. You learn that solitude is not loneliness, but a place where emotional strength is built. You learn the value of creating your inner home, a safe space no one can take away. You learn to release expectations, because life becomes peaceful when you stop forcing others to meet your emotional needs. You learn that being happy on your own makes you unbreakable, because it frees you from emotional dependence. You learn that peace begins when you stop explaining yourself to people who have already chosen not to understand you. You learn that when you stop needing others, you finally meet your strongest self. You learn to stop fearing loss, because what is meant for you will never need you to beg for it. You learn that you must validate yourself, because no amount of outside praise can replace inner acceptance. And you learn that healing truly starts when you stop performing, stop pretending, and stop trying to be who everyone expects you to be. Every lesson leads to the same truth. The person you are becoming is far stronger than who you once were. Your journey is no longer about chasing people. It is no longer about proving yourself. It is no longer about being chosen. It is no longer about holding on to relationships that drain your spirit. It is no longer about forcing connections that disturb your peace. It is no longer about reshaping yourself to be liked. It is no longer about losing yourself just to belong. Your journey now is about coming home to yourself. It is about discovering the strength found in silence. It is about understanding that solitude is a gift. It is about knowing your worth without needing anyone else's approval. It is about walking away from anything that harms your soul. It is about trusting your intuition more than outside noise. It is about choosing people who choose you sincerely. It is about creating a peaceful life, even if it means standing alone for a while. It is about rising into your highest self, guided by wisdom instead of fear. When you master being alone, you stop begging for love and start becoming love. When you learn to validate yourself, you stop chasing approval and begin embodying confidence. When you release attachment, suffering fades and clarity grows. When you stop fearing loss, you stop clinging and start trusting life's natural flow. When you remove the masks, you stop shrinking and start becoming who you were meant to be. And slowly, gently, quietly, everything begins to fall into place. The right people find you. The wrong people drift away. Opportunities align naturally. Inner peace becomes your normal state. Your heart feels lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your path unfolds step by step. Your self-worth becomes unshakable. Your life finally feels like it belongs to you. This is the power of building yourself in silence. This is the beauty of learning to be happy alone. This is the strength of letting go. This is the freedom of becoming whole from within. You are no longer the person who depended on others for happiness. You are no longer the person who feared being alone. You are no longer the person who needed to be understood to feel safe. You are no longer the person who begged for the love you deserved. You are no longer the person who bent yourself to be accepted. You are changing. You are awakening. You are rising. And the world has no choice but to rise with you. Your new life begins the moment you choose to honor yourself above everything else. Your new journey begins when you finally become enough for yourself. And your true peace begins when you understand this timeless truth. You were never incomplete. You were simply disconnected from your own soul. Now, you are coming back home. And nothing is more powerful than that.